Member, you have 45 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. As I join this debate on the Appropriation Bill 2021 for financial year 2022. Let me first begin by congratulating the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, who presented a most factual and articulate budget response to the entire nation. In the presentation by the member for Siparia, the member highlighted the undisputed truth that many of our citizens have come to realize firsthand, regardless of who they voted for, that this government has indeed declared war on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Deputy Speaker,
Standing Order 55-1A, the member is using objectionable, abusive, insulting, offensive words, language, and misleading the Parliament. I listened to the opposition leader's speech and it was none of that.
Overruled. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And it looks like the member was doing like the minister, the member for Lava until he was sleeping. It looks like he was sleeping and he wasn't listening and paying attention. But moving on, Mr. Deputy Speaker, this is my second budget contribution as the Member of Parliament for Couva North. And I take this opportunity once more to express my heartfelt gratitude to the Honourable Political Leader for the confidence that she has placed in me to serve the constituents of Couva North. I am also equally grateful, Mr. Deputy Speaker, for the trust and support that I receive from the constituents of Couva North, whom I serve with all my heart every single day, because they deserve nothing less. And last but not least, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would also like to take this opportunity to say a special thank you to my staff and all the stakeholders who assisted me in preparing this Couva North budget response and the consultation that we have held in putting this together. Mr. Deputy Speaker, over the past 4 days, since the Minister of Finance read the budget, I have been reviewing what analysts, subject matter experts, and well-respected technocrats have been saying. What they have expressed is an overall feeling of doubt that this budget can bring about no sort of economic stability at this time. What is desperately required for our country, Mr. Deputy Speaker? And of course, we know this to be true because the incompetence and failure of this government, they have crushed our economy long before COVID-19. Certainly from on this side, Mr. Deputy Speaker, there is an acute sense of hopelessness about this budget because it is completely absent of any progressive revenue-generating measure. It states nothing about foreign direct investment, and it's a complete rehash and a con job that this government is trying to pull on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this government seems clueless about the concept of resilience because this budget is totally devoid of any ideas to build our resilience. What this budget represents, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is a weak attempt to resuscitate local institutions that they, on that side, put into a coma because of their incompetence. As a matter of fact, Mr. Deputy Speaker, this budget for fiscal 2022 is the most disdainful, disrespectful one that this government has imposed on our citizens. After 6 years of compounded failure, we're now at a time when our citizens are looking to the government to show some sense of compassion, some sense of empathy, some glimmer of hope. What does the Minister of Finance offer? Tax, borrow, and sell. Are they serious, Mr. Deputy Speaker? How could any rational thinking government allow a Minister of Finance to prepare a $52 billion budget facing a deficit of over $9 billion after the economic hardship of a global pandemic, coupled with classic PNM mismanagement, tell the population that their only plan to raise revenue is to tax the population and sell off the state assets? They cannot be for real, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to use a moment to respond to some of the statements made by previous speakers on the other side. And I want to start off, Mr. Deputy Speaker, with the last speaker, the member for San Fernando East, who came and told this Parliament in his ending section that it is about this government listening to the people, and that is what they have been doing in making their government policy. Mr. Deputy Speaker, have they really been listening to the people of this country? Have they been hearing the cries of our citizens? How many of our citizens have been asking for property tax or have been begging for the deferral of property tax? You see, Mr. Deputy Speaker, there have been several commentary placed in our national newspaper where many subject matter experts in the area of finance and the economy and citizens of our country has been asking for a deferral of this property tax. And the leader of the opposition in her presentation made reference to the statement made by Diego Martin West some years ago when he himself criticized and condemned the implementation of property tax. However, it is clear that they have not been listening to the people. What was said by the former speaker, the member for San Fernando East, is that the property tax, it is going to be calculated on a percentage of the annual rental income and so forth. And he was saying to us that you could not enjoy your property if we did not supply roads, drains, fire, and local government services. Madam Speaker, many of our citizens out there have been complaining on a continuous basis of the roads, the drains, and the quality of service being given to them, being provided to them by this government. But as I move on in my presentation, Madam Speaker, I will go into some of those specific issues because I have sat with my councillors, the different councillors that represent the various electoral districts in the constituency of Couva North, and we have formulated several of the matters affecting the constituents, which I will go to in a short while. However, I want to touch on the area of agriculture, which has been the greatest failure of this PNM administration since they have come into office. And Madam Speaker, in the budget presentation, the Minister of Finance stated, and I quote, "Our roadmap to recovery accorded food security the highest priority to address the COVID-19 pandemic-induced challenges anticipated in respect of food security. Agriculture is the basic source of food supply, and our food security program will raise consistently the contribution of agriculture to economic development." How, Madam Speaker? How, when the same Minister of Finance has cut the agriculture incentive program, head 77, subhead 04, item 08, sub-item 01, he cut this item from 26 million budgeted for last year, 2021, to 11,039,000 in this year's budget. How could he be serious when he cut the agriculture stimulus package from 500 million down to 300 million, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, where is the food security the Minister speaks of? Are our citizens better off today in terms of food security than they were since September 2015? The cost of agricultural inputs has skyrocketed when the hapless Minister of Trade and Industry doing nothing about it, except to say that she is unable to do anything about it. Madam Speaker, you know we can accept failure because as humans, all of us fail at something and at some time. But what we cannot accept, and what the farmers and the citizens of our country cannot accept, Madam Speaker, is the fact that the Honourable Minister is just failing to try to do something. Our citizens have been faced with rising food prices, so much so that inflation on basic food items negate the removal of VAT on these food items. So this is zero-rated list that the Minister of Finance has expanded by a whole 11 or so items is pure mamagai. That is what it represents. That is just to mamagai our citizens. After 6 years of countless broken promises and billions of dollars afforded to the Ministry of Agriculture, it seems that the government plan for food security is pigtail and more pigtail. Madam Speaker, I want to remind our citizens that whatever VAT they are removing from food items, it is their administration who placed the VAT on the food items in the first place. It was the most caring and compassionate Prime Minister this country has ever seen, the Honourable Kamla Prasad-Bisesa, who had removed the VAT from 7,000 food items, Madam Speaker. And it was only when the PNM came into government in 2015, they returned VAT on those food items. So don't come here and boast about removing VAT from 11 or 12 items when it is you who had our citizens suffering for the past 6 years with harsh and oppressive policy of tax, and more tax. Madam Speaker, last year the Minister of Finance introduced a 500 million stimulus package for agriculture, boasting that it represented a 70% increase over the previous year's allocation. Despite this, all the old talk, Madam Speaker, do you know how much of that $500 million has been actually used to stimulate growth of our agriculture sector? Not 1 red cent. The Minister of Finance in his budget presentation has refused to account how he spent the $500 million. And this is what happened to that agriculture stimulus package and the reporting on the agricultural stimulus package. Nothing was said to the country of how it was spent because, Madam Speaker, absolutely nothing was done with it. What we do know is that 57 million was transferred from the Ministry of Finance to the Ministry of Agriculture in the midterm review to fund the food basket support program. Madam Speaker, while this initiative provided short-term income support to farmers, beyond this, there was absolutely no capacity building as a result of this $57 million transfer. The question remains, where did the rest of the money go? Where did it go? Looking at the draft estimates of recurring expenditure for Head 18 on page 105, subsection 42, Fiscal Incentive Program for Farmers, the 2021 estimate of 500 million was revised to 10 million. Madam Deputy Speaker, 10 million was the revised estimate. That is all that has been accounted for, a meager 2% of the total allocation. Last year, when the Minister of Finance was rattling off the list of things that this $500 million stimulus package was going to achieve, the agriculture sector was very hopeful for an end to the 5-year period of neglect that they have been facing under this administration. Even in answering the question posed by my colleague, the member for Miyaru, in June this year, the Minister of Planning and Development wasted no time in stating, and I quote, "The $500 million allocation agriculture stimulus package to be disbursed by the Ministry of Finance would allow the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries to commit to the critical projects throughout the country on a timely basis." But, Madam Speaker, on realizing that they allocated $500 million without any plans in the first place, the Minister of Finance, in failing to account for the remaining $430 out of the $500 million in his budget presentation earlier this week, gave us a word-for-word copy and paste of what he said last year with respect to the stimulus package. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, I would like the Minister of Finance to tell this Honourable House in his winding up the real reason why he would allocate $500 million to agriculture but not transfer it to the Line Ministry. Because you see, Madam Speaker, I do not believe for a minute the feeble justification provided by the Minister of Agriculture during last year's budget debate in the other place, which I would like to quote for the record. And the Ministers of Agriculture stated, "We have found that we could remove a significant part of the bureaucracy if the funds is housed at the Ministry of Finance, from which the ultimate payment must come." Imagine for a minute, as a Minister of Agriculture, your ministry receives an additional $500 million stimulus package, and your excuse for not having access to it is because you want to remove bureaucracy? Madam Speaker, that makes any sense? Madam Speaker, all I can understand this to be is the biggest admission of incompetence and failure from a government that I have ever seen. Madam Speaker, were it not for several other matters I want to highlight, I would have spent most of my speaking time to address the issues surrounding this $500 million stimulus package. Monies that could have been used to benefit several other areas, including areas in the Ministry of Agriculture. For example, it could have been used as a stimulus package for fisheries. $430 million unspent, unaccounted for, but the landing site in Orange Valley is still untouched. Fishermen have to traverse through rocks and rubble in the night to go on their vessel and to come back from their vessel. Calibre Fish Facility needs a cold storage. It needs lighting. Fishermen having to launch their boat in complete darkness, Madam Speaker. The refurbishment of fish depots across our country, from Claxton Bay, Celibia, Matlot, across the country. This $430 million that was unspent and unaccounted for could have been utilized. The protection of our fishermen continues to be of utmost concern. The call for agriculture to be a tax-free industry must also be extended to the fisheries sector, Madam Speaker. Beyond the rebate currently being offered, this government needs to completely remove import duty and VAT on fishing gears, or at least on marine safety gears, on survival gears, so that fishermen will also be able to benefit and receive some sort of incentives. Touching on fishing, Madam Speaker, I want to make mention of a conversation during the financial term that I would have had with the Honourable Minister of National Security. Earlier this year, Madam Speaker, I wrote to the Honourable Minister of National Security requesting a meeting with him concerning the safety of our fisherfolk out at sea. The Honourable Minister obliged by putting a meeting in place on which I carried with me representatives from the Cali Bay Fishing Association and Claxton Bay Fishing Association. Coming out of that meeting, we had several recommendations and several agreements took place. Madam Speaker, out of most of the recommendations and the agreements that have taken place at that meeting, which I will highlight here, we are still waiting. We are still waiting for the lighting at the Cali Bay fishing facility, which the Honourable Minister indicated that he was going to coordinate with his colleague, the Minister of Public Utilities, to improve the lighting within 1 week. This meeting took place on the 14th of June. From then to now, the lighting is still in a very poor condition at that facility. We discussed the establishment of a Coast Guard base, TTPS Marine Riverine Unit base in central Trinidad at the Cali Bay fishing facility. From then to now, Madam Speaker, no presence, no base established. We discussed the construction of a security booth at the Cali Bay fishing facility. From then to now, no construction of no security booth. Installation of security cameras, no installation has taken place up to now. We ask for the repair of the interceptors. This is a conversation that has been ongoing. The fisherfolk from Cali Bay were promised since November 2018 by the former Minister of National Security that these interceptors were going to be refurbished so that it will be out there and the fishermen would have been in a safer environment to operate. No sort of presence from the refurbishment of these interceptors and from the operations of these interceptors out there. Madam Speaker, there are several issues that I can go on and on. However, coming out of the discussion, we had to follow up with the Riverine Unit, and I must say a special thank you to the TTPS and the Riverine Unit who were present, that coordinated with the fishing folks of Cali Bay, and we had those present from Orange Valley, Brickfield and Claxton Bay conducting a training exercise for the use of a flare launch. That was the only activity that took place coming out of that meeting. So most of the issues that we required the Minister of National Security input on, I don't know if the Honourable Minister of Finance told him no. Just like how the San Fernando East has said that this Minister of Finance, one of the talent he has is the ability to say no. I don't know if the Honourable Minister of National Security made representation on all these recommendations that we discussed, but when he went to Finance, he was told no, no, no. Madam Speaker, I'm very hopeful that in this financial term, we will see some sort of representation from the Honourable Minister of National Security, and hopefully consideration will be given by Finance so that the fisher folks of central Trinidad can see some sort of deliverables. I now turn to the NAMDEVCO Food Basket Support Program. Madam Deputy Speaker, the need for government to launch a food basket support program did not arise because of COVID. Let me repeat that. The need for government to launch a food basket support program did not arise because of COVID-19. From September 2015 to now, this Rowley-led government has progressively and systematically brutalized our economy, Madam Speaker, by directly and indirectly shut down companies and businesses, sending tens of thousands of workers on the breadline, by failing to recognize and deal with the shortage and the crisis of foreign exchange in this country, by allowing food prices to escalate through unnecessary spending of vanity projects and their facilitation of waste and management, such as the 500 million stimulus package that was not utilized to the benefit of our agricultural society. So, Madam Speaker, the decision by Cabinet to engage the Ministry of Agriculture to launch emergency food support measure was necessitated because of pure incompetence on the part of this administration. On May the 4th this year, MPs received letters from NAMDEVCO announcing a food basket program in which MPs were to receive for the month of May 600 food hampers consisting of fresh fruits, vegetables and poultry for distribution to the most vulnerable in our communities. 1 week later, Madam Speaker, on the 10th of May, NAMDEVCO wrote to MPs revising that and advising that MPs will only be receiving 400 hampers. Madam Speaker, after my office had already received hundreds of requests, and I'm certain other MPs would have received hundreds of requests for assistance, NAMDEVCO was asking MPs to turn away needy constituents and to cut down their figures. This would have been a most unfortunate and embarrassing situation if it was to manifest. However, it was avoided because of mounting public pressure that was placed. A sure sign of how much our citizens are suffering out there when they contacted the several MPs' office requesting food support from these hampers. On the 10th of May, the Minister of Finance held a press conference at which he confirmed that the government would be extending the program, distributing 25,000 food baskets per month for 3 months at a cost of $30 million. The maths would reveal that this amounted to a cost of $400 per food box. 25,000, 3 months, $30 million. Madam Speaker, as we fast forward to the midterm review, when the Minister of Finance came to Parliament seeking a variation of 57,310,000 for the provision of, and I quote directly from page 24 of the Standing Finance Committee agenda document, and it states, to enable the distribution of 20,000 market boxes per month with effect from May 2021 to September 2021. Again, by simple maths, 57,310,000 divided by 100,000 market boxes equal $573 per market box. In the Minister's budget statement earlier this week, however, the nation was told, and I quote, 139,906 market boxes, each valued at $581 at a total value of $81.3 million were delivered to 41 constituencies and non-governmental organizations during the period May 4th, 2021 to August 9th, 2021. Madam Speaker, during the period of May to September, I asked my staff to engage in random sample costing of the various items comprising a single food box based on NAMDEVCO retail schedule posted on their website. And I just want to turn to what these food boxes contained, Madam Speaker. Each of the hampers had cleaned chicken, 1.04 kilogram an average weight based on the random sampling conducted, orange, 10 oranges, plantain, 2.04 kilogram of plantain, 2.04 kilogram of sweet potato, 2.27 kilogram of dasheen, 2.04 kilogram of cassava, 1 kilogram of pineapple. It seems they're getting a little antsy on the other side as we are highlighting the details here. 2.04 kilogram of pumpkin, 1.5 kilogram of squash, 1 bundle dasheen bush, 0.6 kilogram tomatoes, 14 pimento, 9 hot peppers, 2 bundles of bodi, 1.5 kilograms cucumber, 6 eggs. Madam Speaker, what I ask my staff to do is to utilize the average weights and work with the schedule provided on the NAMDEF site, not the wholesale price, but the retail price, and do an actual calculation of how much these food boxes will average. Madam Speaker, the average price was $238.26. Let me repeat that. $238.26. So, Madam Speaker, if we take the Minister's word for it, that a food box is valued somewhere between $573 to $581, and the cost of the items in each of these boxes is about $238, is it proper value for money that we are receiving in these food boxes? If so, then can the Honorable Minister indicate where the missing $350 per box? Or should I ask the other Minister in Finance to help him and tell us where the $49 million of expenditure has gone? Where has this money gone? Madam Speaker, at this point in time, I want to ask that the Committee on Public Administration and Appropriation of this Parliament investigate this issue. This is a serious issue concerning $49 million of our taxpayers' money. But that is not just the issue. The issue at hand is this monies could have been utilized to provide a lot more hampers, to help a lot more families, to assist a lot more underprivileged individuals, instead of persons having to wait 2 and sometimes 3 months before they can receive a next hamper, because my office received over 2,000 requests, and I'm certain other MPs would have received similar amounts, asking for assistance from the Office of the Member of Parliament, and constituents had to be deferred for the following month because we were only receiving $600 per month based on their maths and based on their spendings. So with this kind of wastage and squandermania, a lot more of our citizens could have benefited from this program. Madam Speaker, I want to move on to another issue, another serious issue called land tenure for farmers. And I am hesitant to speak about this issue, even in small details, because no matter what I say, the Minister of Agriculture is going to come with some sort of nonsensical excuse as to why he has completely failed to bring closure to this issue after 6 years of purportedly dealing with it. What I will say, however, is that land tenure remains the single greatest problem affecting farmers. Other than having to face my honorable friend, the Minister of Agriculture, whose promise to accelerate land tenure was unceremoniously overturned by the ineptitude of his own colleague, the Minister of Finance. Madam Speaker, another matter related to land tenure for farmers is land tenure for spontaneous settlers and the regularization of spontaneous settlers. We are here to debate a $52 billion budget, Madam Deputy Speaker, in fiscal year 2022. Yet in 2021, this government, after spending the last 6 years in office, continued to deny our citizens regularization of their properties. And as the Minister of San Fernando, the member for San Fernando West, came to disrespect our spontaneous settlers and call them invisible. The invisible people. That's what he referred to spontaneous settlers, invisible people. Well, these are people too. The Minister of Finance come to this Parliament talking about digitization and transformative measures when our citizens have been living in adverse and untenable conditions with dilapidated roads, poor drainage, no water or electricity. Some of these spontaneous settlers cannot get electricity and their children have to utilize candles, candlelight, some pitch oil lamp. Imagine in this day and age, Madam Speaker. No, we must do better. Our children deserve better. They are not invisible people. They are people too. And coming out of those areas where we have spontaneous settlers, they work very hard to contribute to the development of our country. Madam Speaker, is it any wonder why agriculture is no better off today than last year or even 6 years ago? I turn again to the Minister's budget statement on page 79, where he states, and I quote, "We have made agriculture in all its facets a tax-free industry, and we are building on this base. The confidence-inducing effects of which will facilitate investment in the sector by our investors and farmers." The most interesting part about this statement, Madam Speaker, is how the Minister of Finance has put just not one, but perhaps both his feet in his mouth in making this a statement. Because in the first instance, how in heaven's name can you come to this Parliament talking about you have made agriculture in all its facets a tax-free industry when you are subjecting farmers to property tax? And the other Minister of Finance, the member for San Fernando East, he stood there and he gave us the figures. Agriculture lands are going to be taxed 2%. That is what his colleague said, the member for San Fernando East. He stood there just before me saying that agricultural lands are going to be taxed 2%, farmers are going to be taxed 2%. So then I call upon the Honourable Minister of Finance to withdraw his statement, because it is false and it is misleading, Madam Speaker. Moving on, Madam Speaker, I want to say that is a serious question that I want to ask. Where in the world does the prospect of taxation facilitate investment? This government clearly is not serious about putting agriculture first. When this Rowley-led government has failed to eradicate the single largest problem facing farmers, land tenure, you want to have them pay property tax for land they do not even hold title. Some of these farmers have not been able to get title for the lands that they have been occupying for years and years, for generations and generations. But because they are utilizing the land, you are now coming and telling them that they have to pay property tax. It already takes months and years for farmers to receive a flood compensation. But then again, Madam Speaker, in the eyes of this government, the only way to prosperity is through taxation. Madam Speaker, another sore issue that is plaguing agriculture for some time now, without any intervention by the Minister of Agriculture, is that of predial larceny. During the budget debate last year, it was a complete and utter surprise to see my colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, spend all of 15 seconds talking about predial larceny. And what did he say? Madam Speaker, allow me to share. The Minister said, and I quote, "In predial larceny, when I came in, I am still dealing with an issue of guns being ordered for the predial larceny squad. Paid for, received, and still cannot be found and accounted for. And it is in the hands of the police, Madam Speaker." End quote. So, Madam Speaker, 1 year later, I would like to ask for an update from the Honourable Minister of Agriculture as to what has become of this single most pressing issue in his eyes, the only issue important enough for the ministers to speak on in his contribution concerning the predial larceny squad. I wonder though, Madam Speaker, if the goodly minister was aware that the southern unit of the predial larceny squad had to depend on the kind contribution of several businesses in Barakpur community, Councillor Rafi and others, to purchase tyre for their vehicle. Is the minister aware that the central unit located in Carsonfield that you almost cannot locate because the surrounding bushes are so overgrown and encroaching onto the property? It is like a scene from the movie Jumanji. The Carsonfield unit could not use their very outdated vehicle for several months because it had no battery and also need proper tires. My staff have visited this location July this year, Madam Speaker, and from since then up to today's date, the vehicle is still not functioning. The front suspension is badly off. They do not have a proper functioning vehicle, the central unit predial larceny squad. While all this was taking place, Madam Speaker, the Minister of Finance and Agriculture were playing cat and mouse, Tom and Jerry, with the 500 million stimulus package. That is how this P&M government puts agriculture first. Total neglect for our farmers and our agriculture community. Another topic that is troubling our agriculture and our farmers is the giant African snail, which continues to be one of the most destructive threats to crops. The rapid rate at which this pest has spread is faster than the action of the Minister of Agriculture. Imagine it was identified in Diego Martin to Valsane, all the way down to Kunjal food crops, Barakpur, Maruga, throughout Couva North, now infested. And what has the Minister of Agriculture done to assist with the eradication of this pest? It is clear that the snail is moving at a faster pace than the Minister can keep up with. Madam Speaker, I want to turn to agricultural access road. And if I may, Madam Speaker, can you tell me how much time?
You end at 6 o'clock, at 7 o'clock.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam Speaker, on the matter of agriculture. 6:45.
Yes, you have 3 more minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. On the matter of agricultural access roads, Madam Speaker, allow me to revisit the budget debate of fiscal 2021, where the Minister of Agriculture came to this House and he said that he was going to ask the Minister of Financing to access funding to the sum of 30 million out of the 500 million in 2 phases. He indicated that there were some 900 kilometers of agricultural access roads that needed repairs. However, again, when we look at what has been utilized in this stimulus package, nothing was done, Madam Speaker. And the Minister comes here again, pie in the sky, making promises about repairs of agricultural access road, calling out several areas. But if we look at the history, if we look at their experience, if we look at their track record, just as how it has been, so it shall continue to be as long as they are here in office. And I don't think, Madam Speaker, that we will see any difference in this upcoming financial year. Madam Speaker, I turn to flooding, which is another major issue affecting the constituents of Couva North and Central Trinidad. And this issue has been raised with the Honourable Minister of Works, with the Minister of Local Government. Several letters have been written, and because of the shortage of time, I will place this in the public domain and on my Facebook page. But from then to now, these watercourses continue to be. And with those few words, Madam Speaker, I say thank you for this opportunity to contribute.